Hey guys, my name is Carlos Perez, and today I'm going to be talking about polymorphism. Now, polymorphism is a concept of object-oriented programming, and it works pretty much hand in hand with inheritance, another concept which we talk about in another video. And while inheritance, as you may already know, uses attributes and methods from different classes and uses it in another class, polymorphism takes those methods and then uses them to perform different tasks. And that is very useful in modern programs because it allows you to save code, save time, save resources. It's a very useful concept that's used in very many programs because of how flexible it is, how dynamic it is, and how efficient it is in running code. So we're gonna go really quick into an example, and I'll show you just exactly how to implement polymorphism in a program. Okay, so here's an example that was used in the inheritance video. And if you didn't watch the inheritance video, that's fine. We're just going to run through real quick all the different classes that we have in this example and what each of them do. So we have here the main class, which is obviously just contains the main method, has the variable that we're initializing, and the method that contains pretty simple stuff. Let's go then to the employee class, which is the superclass in this example, and has like it has the fields of string name, int ID, string position, and int salary. It then has its own just constructors, and then it has the public void print method, which just prints the name, ID number, position, and salary of that employee. Pretty simple stuff. Then we have regular employee, which is a subclass of employee, and it extends employee. So if you look here, there's actually no methods here. All it does is just super for the for the new name, new ID, new position, and new salary. And but if you run this, you'll see that it actually still runs the method from the employee superclass. So that's inheritance doing its thing. It's the subclass is making use of the superclass and its methods, and then just uses it, and runs the code. So when it runs this, it runs the employee's print method, and we get the result here, which is the name, ID number, position, and salary of Joe Peters. How do we take this then from inheritance to polymorphism? Well, we can do a few things, but for the first and probably the most important thing here is changing these into protected. Now, why do we say that? Because when we say polymorphism, we're changing the way that the same the same the same method is used, right? So let's say I would want to have a different kind of print method for regular employee. So if I had a regular employee, when I would run the print method, it would have a different result from running the print method from the employee superclass. So let's say I ran regular employee, and it runs print. You'll see here that there's some errors popping up, right? It has red lines on name, ID, position, salary, and it says here that the field employee.salary is not visible. Now, the reason why is because the name, ID, position, and salary are actually private. And the problem with private is that only employee, the superclass employee, can access these. To make it so that the regular employee can access this, we'll change this from private to protected so that it can actually be used as well. So we're going to just change it real quick. You could also change this to public, but by changing it to public, it also makes these variables accessible to all other classes. By keeping it to private, it only becomes accessible to the superclass and its respective child or subclasses. So regular employee is a subclass of employee, therefore it does work. But if I created just a random class called, let's say, dog, for example, then it wouldn't be able to access these fields. So it's a pretty handy tip if you wanna keep the access limited to superclasses and subclasses only. That's how you do it. So we changed it to protected, and now we have the print method. Now you'll notice that it's pretty much the same thing, the same methods. So we're gonna try to add a line of code that just shows that it's different from, it's from the employee version of print. So we're gonna make a quick systemout.println code, and we're just gonna say this person is a regular employee. Woohoo. Or something like that. So there you go. It's now showing that it's a regular employee. We can also just conversely just have the same thing here, but it'll say that this person is just your typical employee, not sure if they're regular or not. Something like that, you know? And let's save that. So we now have two ways to tell the difference, right? If it runs the employee version of print, it would say this line, and if it runs the uh, regular employee version of print, it would run this line instead. So right now, we haven't changed this yet, so let's see what happens when we run it right now. We get the regular employee result, right? It says it just says this person is a regular employee, woohoo. Because it's of type regular employee. You know, it's obvious. If we were to run this as a typical employee, just an employee in general, not a regular employee, you'll see that it's different. It's your typical employee. So it is working as intended, right? It's overriding the, well, it's not necessarily overriding yet, but it's running the methods, you know, it's unique to it. So how do we use polymorphism here? The best way to showcase polymorphism here, or probably the easiest way to show it in a really quick like tutorial video, would be through the use of a polymorphic array. And that basically is just an array that makes use of polymorphism to store different types of data. So I'll show you right now. Let's create an array of type employee called empr, right? Now empr will have the size, so okay, so empr will have the size of, let's say for example, let's just say 2 for now. Now we'll then have the first element of empr at index 0 to be an employee. And this employee will be named Joe Peters, as we have earlier. But then we'll have the second element, this array, be a regular employee instead. Right? And let's just put the constructors in. The name has to be, let's just say, I don't know, Joe Mama or something. You know, let's have it, Joe Mama. The numbers are gonna be, just throwing some numbers there. Precision is, let's just say CEO. And the salary would, since he's a CEO, let's just give him like, I don't know, 6 million. And that right there, boom. We now have the second element in the array, a regular employee named Joe Mama, as CEO with 6 million worth of salary. Pretty cool. We'll then create a for loop. The for loop would be for int x equals 0, x is less than empr dot length, and then x plus plus, and we then just run empr x dot print. And basically what this does is this for loop will run through every single element in the polymorphic array and run their respective print methods. So you'll see here that although we're using just one line of code for, you know, all of these for both of these, it will run the two different types of print methods. So if I run this right now, actually I have to, let me just comment this out because I do not think we want this to be seen in the terminal. So I'm just gonna comment these out and we'll run this again. So as you can see here, it first ran this line of code. So it's just the name, Joe Peters, this person is your typical employee, not sure if they're regular or not because they are of the type employee. and then it prints for the one in index 1, which is a regular employee, which is why it's saying this person is a regular employee, woohoo. And it has our Joe Mama here with ID number, CEO, and salary. Pretty cool stuff. We can even add more of this, and we don't even need to change this for loop anymore. All we have to do is just add more of this here. So let's say we'll just change the size to 3 to give more space. We'll put this at index 2. Oops, put index 2. And then we're going to have this guy as just an employee, not a regular employee, and we'll name him Joe Bob. The number will just be whatever number we can throw in. The guy is not a CEO. Let's just say he's a part-timer, and his salary is just 6. Just 6. And we'll run that. As you can see, without changing the for loop, by adding a single line of code, I get another 3 lines here: the name, ID number, position, salary, and it's using the employee version of print, not the regular employee version. So as you can see, by using polymorphism, we're able to use one reference type, which is employee, and then just throw in whatever we want. It can be employee, regular employee. If we added, let's say, another type of employee, we could create like a part-timer type of subclass, and then that would still work. We could have just a regular employee if that's a thing, and then that would still work. And that, in essence, is how polymorphism would work, right? We can have empr stay as an employee of a type employee, but we can add multiple types of employee. All subclasses are valid in this array, and then we can use them whenever you want. And that just makes things really useful when you're trying to keep track of multiple things at once from multiple subclasses. It's very flexible, and it saves a lot of code, a lot of time, and a lot of resources in your applications and programs, which is why it's such a great tool such a great concept to master and learn, because whenever you apply it, it just makes your program run a lot more smoothly. So in essence, it's just like, it's a time saver, it's a resource saver, it's just really, really useful. And again, I can just remove this here, no need to change the for loop, and it will just run as normal. Oh, never mind, it says null pointer exception because it's 3. If I change it to 2, it should work. Yes. Okay, so there you have it. It's working. It's not that difficult to once you get the hang of it. Polymorphism is just basically making use of the same method to perform different tasks. This print method was reused here. We didn't need to create a different method called, let's say, regular employee print or something. We can reuse print because it does pretty much the same thing, but have a small difference because maybe, let's say, the regular employee has different criteria or different needs, and it just makes things a lot more useful because not all subclasses need to inherit the exact same methods as their superclass has. Maybe they want to change a few things, maybe they want to keep it the same way. That's just how polymorphism works in general. So that's how polymorphism works in a nutshell. It's just basically using the same method for different tasks. It's very useful, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you understood. Maybe you learned a thing or two from the video, and yeah, I hope you have a good day.